On this episode of the Getting Rooted podcast,
When everyone else always comes first, eventually you stop showing up on your own priority list. Today, we're talking about why putting yourself last rarely feels like a decision. It feels like being responsible, being a good mom, a good wife, a good daughter, a good friend. Until one day, you realize you don't even know where you fit into your own life anymore.
Let's get rooted with Getting Rooted, Rooted Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to Getting Rooted. I'm your host, Jeanine Hansell-Frimpong, therapist, coach, and someone who is very much on this realignment journey right alongside you. Every other Tuesday, we sit down for an honest conversation about what it actually looks like to stop surviving and start realigning your life. Hey, friend, come. Can we talk about something? I want to know, can we talk about why we keep putting ourselves last? Yeah, you. Why do you keep putting yourself last? Why do I keep putting myself last? And in asking that question, when was the last time you made a decision based on what you needed? Not what your kids needed, not what your spouse needed, not what your parents needed, not what your clients needed, not what your job needed, not what even your church needed. You. I want you to take a second with that because I think if you're anything like me, the answer isn't coming quickly. Because I had to ask myself that question recently. And honestly, I didn't like my answer. I sat with it longer than I expected to, trying to really think of one recent decision, just one, that started with what I needed instead of what everyone else needed from me. And it took a really long time to find an answer. And that really scared me and concerned me. And so I'm bringing it here to you because somewhere along the way, I, became really good at considering everyone else's needs before we ever really consider our own. And I want to be clear. It wasn't intentional, right? Nobody sits down one day and decides, I'm going to stop mattering to myself. That sounds pretty silly. However, it happens one small decision at a time. Like my son's schedule came first. My dad's appointments came first. My clients came first. The business came first. My mom came first. Ministry came first. It was always something else except for me. And so it's not because any of those things are wrong to care about. They're not. Every single one of those is a legitimate good thing to show up for. But because somewhere in holding all of them at the same time for so long, I can talk about me. I quietly stopped being one of the people I was holding space for. And here's the thing about how it happens. It never feels like this dramatic moment. It feels like Tuesday. It feels like, of course I'll handle that. It feels like checking everyone else's calendar before you even think to check your own capacity. It feels responsible, reasonable, like exactly what a good mom, what a good daughter, a good business owner would do. Putting yourself last, it rarely feels like a conscious decision. I mean, it really feels like being responsible. It feels like being a good mom, a good wife, a good daughter, a good employee, a good friend. Good, right? But always in relation to someone else, never in relation to yourself. Until one day you realize you don't even know where you fit into your own life anymore. I think this is one of the sneakiest patterns we talk about on this podcast because it doesn't announce itself. Putting yourself last often sounds noble, right? It sounds like a virtue. It sounds like you're really a good human. You're really a good person. And we tell ourselves things like, I'll do it later, as if later is like a real scheduled time. And not just a way of saying not now, maybe never. And really thinking about that. When you say I'll do it later, does later ever come? It's not a real concept of time. It's just putting it off and off and off, right? Think about that one thing that you say, I'm gonna do that later. And you never have gotten to it. And it's years now, right? Not just months, years that you haven't gotten to do that one thing that was really important to you, but you put it off because of whatever reason, right? Maybe it's they need me more, as if need is a competition and you've already decided you're going to lose it every time. Whew. And I'm just spitting these nuggets as things that I've discovered on this journey um, of just being like and understanding some of the things that are getting me stuck or got me stuck in the hurdles I've had to overcome. And one thing that one statement that I always used to say, and I'm really trying to be conscientious of not saying, is that this season is just busy, right? I'm just so busy. I can't do X, Y, and Z, as if there's a non-busy season waiting for you on the other side of this one. And sometimes there's non-busy months or weeks, but then do you find something else to do in those non-busy times? Just things to think about. Or another one is, it's only temporary. This might be the most dangerous one because temporary has a way of becoming permanent, right? You don't notice the days it stops being temporary. There's no announcement. You just look up one day and realize this has been your entire way of living for years. Now, here's what I want to sit with today. When everyone else when everyone else always comes first, eventually you stop showing up on your own priority list. I want to say that again and slower. When everyone else always comes first, eventually you stop showing up on your own priority list. And it's not because you decided you don't matter, but somewhere along the way you stop being given or stop giving yourself the chance to decide otherwise. You just keep choosing everyone else over and over until choosing everyone else becomes the only thing you know how to do. Now, here's a sentence I think is worth remembering. The women who put themselves last don't usually do it because they don't matter to themselves, right? But they do it because everyone else has always mattered first. And that's an important distinction. This isn't, a story about women who don't value themselves. It's a story about women who's never really been taught or never given themselves permission, which is a big one, to weigh their own needs in the same room as everyone else's needs. Let me name a few ways this actually shows up day to day, because I think it helps to see it in specifics. So one example is you answer the question, what do you want to do? With someone else's preference automatically before you even consider your own. You feel a flicker of guilt at the idea of spending money or spending time or energy on something that's just for you. Even when you can clearly afford it, you become overtaken by guilt. Another example is you stop mentioning the things you used to want because it's been so long since anyone, including you, have asked. You say, I don't care. What's ever easiest for everyone else? So often. You say that so often. that you generally lost track of what you actually prefer. And I see this so many times with my clients. They just say, oh, whatever you want, because it's just easier to go along with whatever other people want. You put other people's feelings. You don't want to ruffle the feathers. You don't want to disappoint people. You don't want to become the person that is causing disruption. You want things to be easy and copacetic while you are shrinking yourself and shrinking the things that are important to you, right? None of these are dramatic. That's exactly the point, right? They're quiet, they're constant, and they add up to something much bigger than any single one of them looks like on its own. So I want to be really clear about something though, because I don't want this episode to land as permission to stop caring about the people in your life. That's not what this is. This episode isn't telling you to be selfish. Self-neglect isn't the same thing as selflessness. There is a real, meaningful difference between the two, right? Between self-neglect and selflessness. And even though our culture blurs them together constantly, you can be deeply compassionate toward the people you love and still honor your own needs. Like those two can coexist at the same time. They're never in competition with each other, even though it feels that way most days when you're in the thick of it, right? You're in the thick of the issues and the problems of the day to day, but that's not the truth. And being a good mom or being a good wife or being a good sister or being a good daughter, it doesn't require disappearing from your own life, right? It doesn't require having no needs of your own. Because the people who love you don't actually need you to have zero preferences or zero rest or zero space to yourself. They need you present, and presence requires you to still be somewhere in there, a whole person, not a partial person, not a part of you. And so here's a reframe I want to offer you today. Putting yourself last doesn't make you more loving. I know it can feel like the opposite. Like every time you choose yourself, you're taking something away from someone who needs you. But it often leaves you with less of yourself to actually give. Think about it. Honestly, when you're running on empty, when you're depleted, when you're having not asked yourself what you need in weeks, months, even years, are you showing up as the most patient, the most present, the most generous version of yourself? Or are you showing up frazzled, short-tempered, going through the motions? Because adding yourself to the list isn't taking something away from the people who depend on you. It's what makes it possible for you to keep showing up for them without running on empty. Think about a car. If you never fill it up, it's not going to go anywhere without you putting gas in it, right? And so it's the same thing with you. You can't keep showing up if you're empty. You're so empty that you are running on fumes until you can't show up at all. And physically you're sick or emotionally you're sick or other things getting in the way of you being even helpful or supportive to the people that you've given your all to because you haven't taken care of yourself. So I want us to pause together for a moment. I want you to think back over today or yesterday, if today hasn't given you much to work with yet. And think about, was there a moment where you had a choice, even a small one, and you chose everyone else's preference without even asking what yours was? You don't need to judge it. I want you just to notice it. That noticing is the beginning of the whole shift. And this week, before you automatically say yes to someone else, I want you to pause and I want you to ask yourself, what do I need in this moment? You do not have to act on it every time. Just notice whether you even ask yourself the question. Because awareness comes before change.
Now it's time for the Rooted Recap.
This is the part where I bring it all home. So, one truth I want you to carry with you. When everyone else always comes first, eventually you stop showing up on your own priority list. Put that big, right? Put that big somewhere. And everyone else becomes first, or you always put them first, eventually you're no longer on your own priority list. And this week's invitation is, before you automatically say yes to someone else, pause and ask, what do I need in this moment? You don't have to act on it every time. Just notice whether you ask yourself that. Just simple like that. And before we meet back here next week, ask yourself, where have I convinced myself that my needs can always wait? And what has that been costing me? So, if today's conversation made you realize you've been living everyone else's priorities instead of your own, that's nothing that you can fix overnight. And it doesn't need to be. It's the beginning of rooted living, the small, sustainable changes that let you stop holding everything together and start breathing again. And if you need a place to start noticing today, the 5-minute overwhelm reset is a good first step. If today's conversation felt like I was describing your life, don't stay stuck trying to figure it out alone. There's an application in the description of this video, and also if you're listening to me on the podcast platforms. And if you're ready for more than just listening, go ahead and click that link. This is the work we go deeper on together when you're ready. No pressure, just a real next step whenever it's needed. And I read every application myself. So make sure you take care of you and stay rooted in your truth, and take care of your mind. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Let's get rooted.